Hi there, folks. Welcome back to the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show. This week in tech, it's episode 674. Got a great panel, got some great stories. I'm going to let the panel quickly introduce themselves, and then we're going to be straight into the meat and potatoes of this show. Got a great guest of the show, a great WordPress individual, hosting expert, CEO. We got Tom returning. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Sure thing. Thank you. I can't believe over 600 of these things, huh? Wow, that is quite a landmark.
That's one way of putting it. That's very diplomatic, Tom. That's one way of putting it. You know, you are a CEO, so you have that skill which I lack. Sharon will tell you the lack of my abilities there. So there we go. All right.
Well, Tom Finelli, Convesio, scalable WordPress hosting. So thank you for the intro, Jonathan.
Yeah, I've got Sharon. You got to feel sorry for Sharon, but there we go. Sharon, would you like to introduce yourself, Sharon?
Well, I don't know why I've been singled out, but my name is Sharon Yates, and I'm with Creative Mouse Studio, and I'm glad to see everybody today.
Yes, I just like to tease Sharon. It's a dark side of my nature. I've got my friend Sally. Sally, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Yes, Sally Getch, rhymes with sketch, the WP fangirl, organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup in Oakland, California.
I've got my friend Spencer, and I actually feel sorry for him today. I thought I'd never say that. I thought those two things I won't put together, but I actually do feel sorry for the old soldier. He's had certain operations on him. It all sounds barbaric to me, but there we go. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Yes, I had the one of those procedures that people have when you go to the dentist, and he says, you should have this looked at. So they cut a piece of my tongue out. So if I sound a little odd today, it's not for lack of reason. Spence from WPLaunchify.com.
I really don't know what to say to that, but there we go. I've got my friend John Locke. John, would you like to introduce yourself to the tribe?
Yeah, John Locke from Lockdown SEO, providing SEO to industrial companies.
That's great. And Sharon's got a very noisy keyboard. There we go. You need to get a quiet one, my dear, for a podcast. Mute it, please, Sharon. You're bashing away. Right. Let's go into our break to listen to our great major sponsor. Be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. My great major sponsor, Castos, has got a special offer just for you, tribe. And I've got some other great offers from other sponsors and other great WordPress vendors. And to get all these goodies, all you have to do is go to the WP-Tonic/recommendations, and all those goodies will be available to you. Go off there and spend money. That's what I say. So panel into the first story, and it's a great WordPress one. WordPress.com announces marketplace vision plan to partner with developers and the WordPress ecosystem. I'm going to start with Spencer, but I feel a bit guilty there, but I will start with Spencer. So Spencer, what do you think of that one?
Hi. I'm sure Tom and I will have a good talk on this one, but this is one of those, start with the premise of what we speak about for almost every show about all the opportunities in WordPress that Automatic has not taken care of or fixed up yet. You know, Gutenberg and access and accessibility and so forth. The problem here is that absolutely WordPress.org or .com should have some kind of an app store. The problem is the details of how does that happen without Matt triggering his either being a favoritism kind of guy or not being a favoritism kind of guy, allowing people to, a couple weeks ago we talked about allowing people to properly upsell or market their things. Who takes the money? How much is the fee? How do you get paid out? Who can put up banners? Can you refer to things? Because right now, it's a major shit show for even basic things. If you go to WordPress.org and you just look up things like, what does a translation plugin do? They still have things listed in their official.org that are from like 6 years ago gone. How are they going to run a marketplace when they can't even get Gutenberg blocks running, or they can't even get like accessibility working? Taking on a project of this magnitude sounds really good, kind of like Elon Musk saying, hey, we'll all be on Mars soon. There's a million things to do between now and then, and WordPress through Automatic is not the one right now to do that without it causing, from my standpoint, more problems for them than it's worth. Because right now, it's WooCommerce plugins. Cool, they own WooCommerce. Can you imagine when you put in this SEO plugin, but not that SEO plugin, or this guy's theme, but not that guy's theme? Like, welcome back to 2007.
Yes. So, Sally, what do you reckon about this?
Well, I mean, I'm not a person who makes products that would go onto the marketplace, so I don't really have a, I don't have any skin in that game. But it does sound like it's one of those things that's fairly fraught, as Spencer outlined, and we'll see. I mean, given the fact that we've just, there's a story that I don't think is on our list about, Twitter doing e-commerce stuff and TikTok doing e-commerce stuff. And so I don't know, maybe having a marketplace is just like kind of in the air. But I wonder if this is one of those things where they're going to drop this announcement and then nobody's going to hear anything for like ever, because we had that announcement about the professional developers building you WordPress.com sites for $5,000, and that supposedly was supposed to be some sort of cooperation with the community. I have no idea what's become of it, because it certainly hasn't hit the news again. So
it's the story of Christmas past.
Yeah, so we'll see, but yeah, if I was a plugin developer or theme developer with potential interest in this, I would be like not holding my breath and counting my fingers after I shake hands.
The only thing I can say, Matt's organisation abilities make mine look good, and yours, Sharon, that's saying something. So there we go. So Tom, what do you think of this?
Well, okay, so I tend to look at this from the customer's perspective, because as many of you know, one of the things we do is we help people's WooCommerce sites be faster. And the biggest problem with that is almost always plugins. And so performance, and by the way, the side effect of this is people just blanketly blame WordPress for being slow. And what do? Shopify is the answer. And so I think there's and I'm starting to take this up as like a religious cause of like stopping.
You've seen the light. Sorry, Tom, you've seen the light, have you? The road to Damascus, have you?
Well, the problem is that you've got all these bajillion plugins that are not tested at scale, and people blame WordPress for it. And it's actually a lot of times third-party companies that are the problem. Like your integration with your shipping system slows down when you try to process 4,000 orders at once, And so I like the idea of a place where we can get curated, trusted plugins that have some, because I really do think, and I think Spencer, you might have been the one that planted this idea in my head, which is, if you could just create a suite of tools that did all the things that you needed them to do, that you needed a platform to do, and you knew they worked together and you supported them, right. you could completely displace the Shopify sort of approach, right? And so I don't know. Part of me is hopeful we're headed more in that direction, and I do like this from that aspect. But
I'm disappointed in you, Tom.
And there will be no drama at all, right? Because there's no drama getting anything into the repo as it is.
Yeah, I'm deeply disappointed in you, Tom. You're just not on message. Don't you know that Jetpack will solve all this? Come on, message. the great leader won't speak to you. You know, you're just not on message, Tom. There we go. Sharon, what do you reckon, Sharon?
Well, I'm like Susie. I'm not in the game on the .org platform or the .com platform, whichever one it is. So I don't really have much of an opinion, but I kind of follow what Sally and Tom were saying. So, you know, ta-da. What is it? Say Sarah, say Ra.
I've got a slight hint for you, Sharon. To be on this show, you don't actually need opinions. You just need the ability to manufacture them, and then you'll be okay.
Well, no.
It is a requirement to actually come on the show. You need to be opinionated, and that's why it's entertainment, Sharon.
I'm sorry, I don't have an opinion about everything.
Right, there we go. Unlike me, in the same, my beloved friend.
I'm sure you will after 5 minutes on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So, John, what do you reckon about this?
Well, I guess they changed their mind, because I remember a few years ago that they said they had no interest in having a marketplace at all. But since, this is for the .com environment, which one of the comments in here said, like, most people self-host on using the .org version of WordPress. So this probably won't be too big of a thing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because you're going to get hit with, I think at some point, like accusations of favoritism.
Never in WordPress.
What goes in this, what comes out. But as far as the business model, it's good that they're finally getting around to doing something with WooCommerce on the .com side. They can, they spent all this money to acquire this solution to compete with Shopify. So hopefully this will help put some more money into the coffers.
I always found it, Tom, sorry to interrupt, John, but Tom, always found this kind of, I don't know how to describe it. We're not going to take money to give a kind of curated list. Yeah, but when it comes to hosting, I don't know how much, you probably got a better idea. I don't know how much that being on the recommended list of hosting on WordPress.org for Bluehost costs them. How much does that cost? You got any idea how much a year that costs them?
No, but I mean, I do know that. I think I will not comment on that. But
I'm just trying to get you into hot water, Tom.
My suspicion. Let us not put Tom on the spot. My suspicion is that this works
I've
like
got to put him on the spot.
contribution.
That's why I get my entertainment from.
You don't carry a bag of loot to the politician you want to influence, right? You make a big donation to their, spouse's favorite charity or something like that. So, I think if there's a pay to play operating, it has a lot to do with like, how much are you sponsoring WordPress events? What are you putting into the community?
That's 1,000% true. I, by the way, I can't say why I know, but like you say, I know that whole 5TH foundation thing and the requirement that you claim that you've donated hours and money goes a long way towards certain people paying attention to whether you be listed, which is one of the reasons I was alluding to the problems that will come as soon as you open this up to anything other than an automatic owned plugin or theme. Because now somebody will have an objective problem of saying, why is this guy in there and that guy? Well, he gave us $10,000. He gave us $40,000 and so forth.
Well, and I will say, though, the hosting page has been under redesign for some time now, where they're going to be much more.
That's one way of putting it.
So it is being worked on by the hosting group. And so we are, you're
working on it, Tom, are you?
Yes, it's coming.
Can we just be honest without being accusatorial here? And I'm not speaking to anybody in particular, not to the panel, but in general. Anybody who's listening to this would be foolish if they really thought about it to believe that the way things work on the back end of Automatic are not like they work in every other aspect of human society. Okay, it's who you know, it's who you do a favor for, it's how much you pay. That's it. We are in a capitalistic environment. Open source is amazing, which is one differentiator. But everything else that goes on, I can speak to you from personal experience, works just like it does in the real world here inside of La La Land of WordPress.org.
Yeah, but there's also a certain, I've noticed, and I might be wrong, panel, but when it comes to WordPress, there's a certain level of hypocrisy around it all that I find interesting. There's a certain, and I think it comes from the great leader to some extent.
And yet there's a massive amount of hypocrisy around almost everything humans engage in.
True. Let's go on.
So it's not that there's an unusual amount of hypocrisy in the WordPress leadership. It's that that we somehow got persuaded to have a level of idealism to think that there wouldn't be.
That's the point, right? Don't believe that, you know, like just because Santa Claus says he's real, that he's real. It's like it works like human nature here as well, even in the open source of WordPress.
I'm all for favors, especially when they benefit me.
The sooner we would get to that, the better off we would all be, because it's the Emperor's New Clothes story. Pretending like it's something that it's not isn't helping anybody. If we could just talk like it's a real business that it is, everybody in the ecosystem would get farther faster. But we keep pretending like, you know, this stuff happens that doesn't really happen, and it's wasting time.
Let's go on to a much nicer story, in which Tom will be much more happier about as well, because I've been teasing Tom, and he won't sponsor me or support any of my other activities. He's been extremely generous, so I've got to be nice to Tom. Mac Studio Display, Apple new desktop for creators. I'm going to start. I wouldn't normally do this, but Spencer, I feel sorry for Spencer today, and I thought I would never say that. And secondly, he's such a Mac supporter.
I mean,
so
was.
So what do you reckon about this one, Spencer?
Okay, so here's the takeaway from this, because my backstory was until 4 years ago, when they started soldering down every component to a Mac, and they were, you know, like the 2016 MacBook Pro was the end of it, because I still run on a 2015. I was a huge fanboy. A lot of things were different. When Tim Cook and the gang started to do this anti-repair stuff and locking in your whatever, and the pricing still went up, the quality and everything went down, I gave up. But here's what's interesting about this, but with the caveat. They've come full circle, because although I was a fan of iMacs that have it all built in with the big screen, I now run a 43-inch TCL monitor connected to a little Intel Nook box. It cost me like $400 for this and $200 for that. And it does everything I need, because the horsepower to do most what most normal people need is like pennies now. This new idea, the Mac Studio, comes from the fact that they decided to shift off of Intel chips back to this mobile M1 chip they made themselves, which is super crazy efficient. And so they went back to their roots, which I used to run a Mac Mini in the old days connected to a big TV. That's how I did things, and it was as good or better with a wireless keyboard. But here's the caveat. Yes, if you spend $2,000, you will get something that's crazy fast and powerful in the app, in the Mac ecosystem, that competes against their tens of thousands of dollar professional thing. But the last paragraph says it all. The Mac Studio cannot be upgraded or expanded internally. While it does have a port assortment, the memory and storage you buy with it are what you will have forever. And I think that's the point. When I used to buy an iMac for $2,000, I could replace the SSD drive. I could replace the memory. I could upgrade. I could even fix it with parts. You are now buying a $2,000 hope that Mac will honor their repair thing, which Louis Rossmann and everybody else have revealed is no longer true. When that little brick box you bought has a problem, they're going to say, sorry, unless you have the extended warranty or blah, 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 you have to buy another one of those bricks. And that's the thing that bothers me, because as much as I want to love Mac, until they go back to their roots of consumer right to repair first and removable parts, and you can swap, until they do that, F that. I'd rather buy an Intel Nook and jam it together with all my stuff because the software online is just about the same.
I was feeling
Please
sorry.
call on me.
I was feeling sorry for you. Now
I wanna rebut
so
this.
sorry for you.
Go for it.
God, Tom, you paid enough money to give me.
I want to
give you a
rebut
review.
this. I'm going to go hard at Spencer here on this.
I do want to love Apple. I
So,
just find it hard
Hey,
to love
look,
them.
here's the deal. All right. You're giving up modular replacement parts, blah, 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 because they are pushing the envelope on efficiency, power, portability, size, all of that stuff. You are trading off this modularity of things for technological advancements. Now, here's the thing, though. This is my bigger arching point. Spencer, you sound like someone buying, I was going to name a name. I'm not. Buying legacy hosting that's really like low end. I'm a professional technology guy. Okay. I make probably tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars off of a single laptop or a computer that's going to last me multiple years. Okay. The cost of that device is so small compared to the value that I'm able to generate with it. It's like, it's like the people who have an e-commerce website.
My
People have an
$1,500 phone that I had to buy.
Okay, but hold on. It's like people have an e-commerce website doing millions of dollars a year, and they're still on $10 a month hosting. Okay. I don't want to fix my computer. I don't need to upgrade it. I'm smart enough to know how much capacity I need for the foreseeable future. The value I get from my Mac is going to be much further surpass me wanting to futz around with changing hardware, which, by the way, I have been a Mac guy since 1994. Okay. I remember when their stock was $11 a share and they were going out of business and Microsoft had to bail them out. And everyone's like, Microsoft owns them. I go way back to this. So I've been through that whole stage. I have done the clones, replaced
You're
hardware.
mixing two metaphors for me.
Hey,
I agree.
I had a
hold on.
PowerBook
I don't want to get this out because I agree with everything you're saying, Tom. When it comes to the decision to spend the money for the hardware that gets you where you want to go, I spent $1,500 for this iPhone 13 Max Plus because I was using an 8 and you can't buy anything. I get it. What I'm talking about is not with me as the consumer. I'm talking about where Apple is effing people hard is you spend $2,000 and then something breaks on my phone or otherwise. Unless you bought the $50 a month support plan, they won't even fix it themselves or have an independent repair shop be able to get parts. They've locked them all down. They've serialized them. And they've
can I slightly interrupt before?
Well, that's the part. I mean, that's because we agree on the
I just
other
want to point out there's two, like what a lot of Spencer says, there's two parts to what Spencer's, and you're mixing them up, Spencer. Your example of stopping third-party people from repairing is I totally agree with you. It's totally horrible, and something should be done about it, right? But the bit that I agree that Tom, this idea that people upgrade, apart from the memory, is to some extent a bit of a fallacy. I think because the last thing most people do is open the back of their computer and put.
Hold on, you're taking my thing.
To your point, I didn't articulate this. Sorry, in my rebuttal for this, but if a computer breaks and it's unrepairable after 2 years, it's paid for itself. I'll buy another one.
But that's not what I'm talking about either.
I think Spencer's talking about if it breaks after 2 weeks.
But that's not true. Apple has a 1-year manufacturer's warranty.
It doesn't work that way. This is what I'm trying to say. Louis Rossmann has revealed with Apple many, many, many times already that because they have locked everything to the board and soldered it, that when you take a thing that is broken, even during normal warranty, that more often than not, the Apple repair guys will tell you something that is not accurate, not true, and they will force you into position, even during a warranty sometimes, of having to rebuy the hardware again. Now, could we all say, sure, I don't care, it's $2,000, it's my main living, I can buy another $2,000 thing? Sure, but that's not what it used to be. For example, parts like memory or SSD drives, they fail. In the old days, the Apple technician or whomever could just replace that one part. But now that it's soldered down, they have a binary choice. Either we honor your warranty or you're fucked and you have to buy the thing over again. And that's where I think like $2,000 is a lot of money for somebody to say, I mean, yeah, it's fast, but like I'm buying essentially a brick. Like the whole thing is just one piece.
I'm going to let some other people into this. So, Sharon,
but I couldn't resist.
Calm down, Spencer, for God's sake.
I'm not uncom, but it's like
calm down for God's sake.
The thing that we're talking about.
Take the drug that's next to you, for God's sake.
The thing that we're talking about applies to many of the other conversations we've had, which is we are.
Can you let me have somebody else remark about this, for God's sake?
But I'm just saying, like, let's not take me out of context. I'm saying in the same context of our last topic, companies need to be held accountable for what they're doing actually versus what the marketing perception is. And this has to do with everything from accessibility to racial equality to hiring practices to mechanical hardware. Apple used to be known as prosumer first, and they've lured us into believing that it's the fastest thing, and it is. But you're going to make a trade-off now. You're going to give us $2,000 and never say a word about it. And by the way, I'm very happy with this $1,500 phone, but it's a $1,500 phone. I have a laptop in my hands here that Apple sold me for less.
Have you finished?
Well, yeah, because you keep changing what I say and trying to make it something else.
I never do that. But have you finished? Can I let somebody else in there? Do you mind? No, somebody else. So,
it's on Sharon, you, Jonathan. Stop changing what I say. We'll get through it.
Oh, God. At least it's a good laugh.
Sharon, I'm salivating. I'm ready to buy. I'm just waiting for one of these clients to give me a load of money and not be a crazy client. I seem to attract very crazy clients, don't I, Sharon?
Can't think why.
So what do you reckon, Sharon?
What do I recommend? Well, I'm not a Mac person. Again, I'm not in that game. And so the news wasn't really exciting to me, but I'm a huge PC user, have been since I've started working on computers. And, but I kind of agree with Jonathan on some part because I do have, but I keep mine until they just won't go as fast as I want to go. I do not stand in line for the latest upgrade of anything. So I
got Apple stuff, but I'm not buying them. I'm not, I thought, I'm not doing that. I totally agree with you. But we've got another
this
stuff.
is Lucy. Lucy is joining me today.
Yeah.
But I make my products whatever.
Actually, that's what Spencer needs. He needs a cat.
He needs a cat.
He'd be much calmer if you've got a cat. He'd be much calmer. Do you know that? If you've got a cat, Spencer, you'd be much happier.
I have.
There's his cat. I'm a firm believer of keeping my products long time until they just absolutely wear out. I mean, my PC, I usually have one on standby when I kind of figure out how long my PC is going to last, and I know when I need to buy another one. But I buy really good products, and yes, I spend the money on the interfacing of my computer, and so that it does work for what I need to do. But I just don't go out and buy something new because it's new. It's just me. I don't need it. I work and everything's fine. Kind of like Tom, I get things replaced when I need them, and I'm willing to spend the money.
Yeah. So, John, I think, I'm tempted. I've been spending so much money on bloody things lately, John. But I am tempted. I think they're on a winner here, John, even though Uncle Spencer thinks they're the darkness personated. What do you reckon, John? I reckon they're going to sell tons of this stuff.
Oh, they'll sell tons. They always do. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm built different. I still have my iPhone 8. I haven't upgraded. Using like a HP laptop here. Still drive my car that I bought 8 years ago. It's cool if you want to buy new stuff, but not everybody is compelled to do so.
Not necessary.
Well, it's the American
No.
way, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think Spencer had a point there. I mean, again, it's kind of get the latest and greatest, and just to make things, I don't know, new and fun. but I'm like John. I didn't even upgrade to my 12. I have the 12 Max Pro. I didn't even upgrade to my iPhone 6. Just wasn't going fast enough for me. I mean, it seemed to just slow down. And I'm like, oh, that's Apple's way of getting me to buy a new phone.
What's ironic here is that Apple already has demonstrated that they could solve both of these problems, because I don't want to make it unclear. I agree 100% with what Tom said. I'm saying that Apple could choose to have the best of both worlds because they used to do this. Even on this machine, they could have a modular memory and they could have a modular SSD or solid state, so that if it was true that something broke, and same with the video card, somebody who's authorized could fix it. But I'm saying in this model, even for the Apple technicians, it's throw the whole thing out or not. That is, to me, in a world where everything can snap together, not any logical business decision other than in favor of Apple selling more stuff or false pretenses. Like that company that's accused of the ice cream machines at McDonald's making all of their money on the 25% repair contract. That's why all the milkshake machines are broken at McDonald's all the time. It's dirty business.
What?
And there's no justification.
Yeah,
I know.
you
It's
don't know
the
that
mystery of life for me, Spencer. Why are those things always broken?
broken. I
The
know, right?
McDonald's milkshake machine, by the way, is like searching for Bigfoot, because people have literally done full investigative research and they got into the code and realized that there's actually programmed into the code failure modes that trigger the service guy to have to come out.
I think these people got to.
This is like your ink cartridges for inkjet printers.
I mean,
It's really half full, but the thing is going to tell you it's empty. And
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that's a good point. The inkjet thing that came out last week, there was Louis Rossman did something on, those label makers that are thermal label makers. The main company of that came out with a chip in their thing that it won't let you use any third-party thermal paper. It's thermal paper. And they made it so their customers can't use anything other than their own, the Venmo or whatever the company. That's the kind of logic that's going on here with this Apple product. And it's sad to me because you know why? Otherwise, I probably would have spent the $2,000. But right now, I already know from the phones and everything, on this thing, I spend $197 a year for an insurance policy to make sure that they will replace it with a full phone. So I'm spending 20% a year on the thing that I spent more than a laptop on. I don't want to spend $200 a year on my $2,000 computer just so they will not lie to me when I need it repaired. Sorry.
It does something
I need
that
Sharon.
the world can do. It can play 18 streams of 8 kilobyte ProRes 420 video.
Yeah, there we go.
It's also
I need to for us to go for our break. Actually, Spencer, you have taken 2/3 of this time up. So we're going for. I'm going to rename this.
This
the
is
Spencer,
my new
I'm going to rename
OTPO.
this show, folks, the Spencer Forum Show. We're going to go for our break. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back.
And welcome back to the Foreman Forum.
Like on Saturday Night Live, they have Alec Baldwin and the other 5-timer, Steve Martin. They have the whole gag, like your 5-timers, you get a robe and stuff. Well, I've been with you since show 1. So if you touch a nerve with me and do and say stuff, guess what? I'm wearing the 5-timer robe. You're going to hear about it. Okay.
It's so easy to wind you up. I get such delight out of it. Before
679 shows I've been here, man.
Right.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Oh God. Give you a break. That's the God. So before we move on to our other great stories, I want to tell you about the WP-Tonic weekly newsletter, which you should sign up, Tribe. It's a newsletter that I write a personal editorial where I have a go at any target in the WordPress community that I think I need to take the piss on. And I get great delight in doing it. And plus, it has all the recommendations from the panel at the end of the show sent to your inbox every week. You definitely want to sign up. Oh, Spencer's gone. You definitely want to sign up. And to get this great newsletter, all you have to do, panel, and it's free, is go to the WP-Tonic/newsletter and sign up for this great thing. Sharon will guarantee it's fantastic, isn't it, Sharon? So on to story 3. Oh, he's back. WordPress.
Put out my meds. That's all.
Oh yeah, that's so
pain-
obvious.
my
That's
pain
so
meds
bloody
from all the
obvious.
His
tension of the
tongue
show.
started bleeding after that
Yeah,
discussion.
something's bleeding. That's all right.
tongue is hurting now.
All right. Number 3, WordPress performance team released new feature plugin for testing improvements and progress. That rose off the tongue, doesn't it? So Tom, when I was reading this, I thought of you, Tom. So what did you think of this story, Tom?
Well, first, I love that we've got a performance team now. That's a huge, great thing. And in general, I love everything that team's doing, the direction they're going. I don't think that these things that they've done first are earth changing. The one that I do love is the object cache feature, because I do think, and you're going to see more companies partnering with companies like Object Cache Pro, which Cloudways did a partnership with, and we announced a partnership with, and so now we deploy Redis standard with our stuff. So does Cloudways and some others, and so I think we're going to be getting into the realm where not only server caching but object caching is important. So I do think that was a big deal. Things like the WebP feature, we're integrated with Cloudflare. It does WebP on the fly. Why do that in WordPress? But nonetheless, I mean, let's not be nitpicky here. The big thing is this is all great stuff, great team, great people on the team, and looking for really awesome things to happen from this team. So I think it's a positive.
So you're giving it a thumbs up, 5 stars?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Right. So Sally, what do you reckon about it?
Well, it sounds like the plugin itself is perhaps not ready for prime time, but I think it's a great idea. And I especially find it interesting that they're going to include a, audit your enqueued assets. Like, how many different times have plugins enqueued the same library? What can you do there to streamline some of that? So,
I do. You reminded me of that, Sally. You're spot on with that. That's a great one, a really good one. The problem is, I don't think most users are going to know what to do about it.
Well, yeah, that is a problem, because I mostly might not know what to do about it either, but it would help me be aware of where problems are likely to be, so that I could reach out to somebody who might know that. And
so John, what do you reckon? I think because there's a real lack of these type of tools, I feel, John. So I think it's good news. What do you reckon, John?
Well, like some of the people in the comments, some of these things have to be done manually. Like, when I build sites, I have to have a manual, basically like a home spun up solution for WebP to make sure that there's support. So that is kind of cool. Some of the other stuff, it's looking for the object cache, and then it's looking for the enqueued assets. You'd still need a developer to help solve those issues, but at least you'd be aware of it. I think definitely for a developer-centric admin, this could develop into a very useful plugin.
So what do you reckon, Sharon? give it 5 stars, 3 stars? What do you reckon?
Well, since it's still in beta, I don't know.
And it might be in beta for the next 5 years, won't it? No, WordPress.
It's kind of like, I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge Elementor user, and things that are in beta tend to last quite a while until they're actually excuse me, I can't even say the word, but their performance is good. But having something that can help users, I'm all for it. But I think Tom made a good point. The users may not know what to do. So good training or some type of good documentation on their website should at least be something that users can refer to when they don't know something, or as Sally suggested, so that they can be referred to reach out to someone. But it sounds good to people like us who know what we're doing.
Right.
Well, and just based on John and Sharon's comments, I mean, the other part of this too is that this is there's an awareness component, right? Yeah. Most people don't know why WordPress is slow. They don't even know where. And so there's this is like educating the base, and it's going to take a decade to do this. It's not something, but just the fact that we have a narrative now around object caching is an elevation of everyone's levels around awareness of, oh, what is object cache and why would I need it?
Yeah. Well, I want to move it on because I want time for our recommendations, and I don't want this show to go on as War and Peace. And I'm gonna go to story 5 because it's delicious. It's delicious. So Ruby on Rails confronts its founding bully. So John, I'm going to let you fill us in on this because it's just so delicious. What's this story about, John?
David Hannemeyer Hansen, the one of the co-founders of Basecamp, a guy that I used to look up to when I was first getting into the web. I don't know, last year there was a list that was going around Basecamp where internally they had the list of funny sounding names. And people were internally calling that out, saying hey, perhaps this is a bad idea. And shortly after that, they said there, no talk of diversity in Basecamp. And David DHH there, he's been kind of going off the rails recently, so to speak. And so the Rails Rails conference, they said hey, you've been the keynote speaker every year. We're not saying don't come to this conference. We're saying maybe somebody else could be the keynote. And then he wrote this kind of bitch fit blog post. And yeah, so when he was going off the rails, it was funny because people were oh, he blocked me. So, on his...
He's blocked me, I think.
Yeah, so I said one thing to him. I said, this is, a bad move or whatever. And he blocked me too. But he was on a blocking spree.
I wonder why. Do you think he's ego?
Hey man, a hit dog hollers. I don't know what to tell you. It's a lot of narcissism in tech.
What is this we've kind of found? There's somebody else that comes to mind that probably would respond in a similar way. Actually, I wonder who that could be.
Yes, well, they do make some references to that in this, and I figured
that I could be talking about
kind,
yes,
mild-mannered leadership.
Yes, well, this is the thing.
Leadership.
This is the yes. That's
we're lucky to have kind and mild-mannered leadership.
Yes, hint. I think that's apotropaic language. And
so Tom, what? You got any advice for David, because he does seem to need some therapy, doesn't he?
Well, look, I will just point out that it is never a good idea to be emotionally triggered in public forums. Okay, So
it depends what drugs you're taking all the time, doesn't it?
So, I mean, it sounds like this was an emotional response from being triggered. But I don't really know any of these people. And so I just read the article, and I'm not sure what good comes of this, but
Well, it's no good to it, but it's still totally entertaining, isn't it, Tom?
that's true. There is
You know.
definitely entertainment value, but I'm not sure what that says about us as a society. So
Oh, God,
Human
you
beings
know,
are just gossip trollops. That's what it says about us as a society. But it also says, this is why
Well, David's been very key. David's been very
benevolent dictators, are still dictators, and you
So,
have to
yeah.
depend on them to be benevolent or not.
Something which I've been pointing out, but David's been very active to point out other people's problems.
Well, yes, I distinctly remember a recorded conversation between him and a certain founder of WordPress, and
you must not be mentioned.
And DHH was making completely valid points that were not received very well.
Didn't get him any straight answers to these questions, though, did it?
You realize that DHH created Ruby on Rails, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, this is like the ego is. This is like Bill Gates not being invited to Microsoft.com or something like that.
I wouldn't say you can't come, David. I'm just saying you can't be the keynote speaker.
I'm not saying he's right, but when you're talking about
I'm sure
somebody,
look, of course he had very strong feelings about it.
Like Larry Ellison,
naturally. But supposedly this person is an adult and could stop and say, it'll look really bad for me if I have a public meltdown about this, no matter how I feel. Maybe I want to consider how to respond.
It's the Twitter and the drug combination that's done it.
Can you imagine them doing like the WordPress something annual event and not asking Matt Mullenweg to speak? Can you imagine that? Like, that's the mindset of this guy. He's from Chicago. He's well known for being, like a big a-hole, and so is Jason Fried, because that's how they started and that's how they roll. It's a private company.
There's nothing wrong throwing shit around, long as you can take some, isn't it?
The issue, which is interesting, is this is not like a corporate publicly traded company. He's not got a board of directors. It's two guys that are multi-millionaires from something they founded, acting badly. They did some horrible stuff 2 years ago, like John said. And now he takes it as a personal slight, which is not surprising. I'm not saying what he did was right or helpful, but like if you said to Jeff Bezos, hey, we're having an Amazon.com conference and you can't speak, he'd be like, whoa, let me get my yacht out.
I might be wrong here, but I don't think they were saying you can't come and you can't speak. They're
just speak. He's not the keynote guy. That's
You're
like
just saying you can't be the keynote speaker this year.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize why RailsConf is trying to distance themselves from DHH. It's because of his reaction to the, hey, keeping a name of funny names, non-European names, basically, it's kind of a bad look. And when 20 of your 57 employees quit over it, when you say we can't talk about, fine then, we can't talk about political activism from a guy who is completely a political activist.
The whole Twitter stream is politics.
Yeah. So I mean, this is why they're distancing themselves from him. If Matt Mullenweg did something similar to what DHH did, then the state of the word would do the same thing.
I guarantee it. What John said is that the difference between Matt and DHH is that Matt stopped doing that back in 2013. Like Chris Pearson or one of those events he learned his lesson and has not done that meltdown since. But back in the day, Matt was doing DHH stuff. Like I was there for all of those, like Matt going at it.
I still follow Chris, but there's something not
there. I mean? Like
there's something not right with Chris, is there?
Wait, can I ask a question? Can I just? This is like, is it possible that these people do these things as a calculation because they want to be like we're talking about them? There's articles.
Tom, sorry, Tom. It's just the drugs, Tom.
They want their 15 minutes of fame.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm not that kind of person.
There are people who will do that. We
well, there
elected
is.
one president.
I heard someone that I met who made some tweets, and that person was like, you know what? Nothing on my Twitter feed happens without purpose. And I was like, really? Because it sounded like you were just impulsively tweeting. And it made me wonder, like, maybe people try to come off that way, but they're actually doing it intentionally.
I think there are some, Tom, but I think this is drugs, actually. But Tom, you know, I'm sure, you know, as a CEO and, you know, as a really intelligent, fantastic human being, he doesn't sponsor the show, folks. So do you actively keep lists of funny names of your clients and, you know, endlessly? I don't know. You don't think that's a good example?
I
to your
live by the
employees, do
rule
you?
that if I wouldn't say it to your face, I don't say it. And
Yeah.
I'm like 98% sleep with a clean conscience. Maybe I slip up here and there, but like I live by that rule.
Yeah, well,
Jonathan, you're on the list for sure, Jonathan.
Well, he did live a clean life until he came regularly on this bloody show. So there we go. Let's go on to the recommendations of the week. Mine is Helpy, Hippie, WP. It's a kind of wiki kind of keep all your information together plugin, and compared to some of the SaaS products, it looks interesting. So that's my recommendation. Please, Uncle Spencer, help me by putting all this into
I think
the
everybody's done it already.
Yeah, well, good, very useful. So, Tom, have you got a recommendation for the tribe?
I do. Businessbloomer.com. And I heard Sharon is a big fan of Rodolfo and what they're doing over there. But if you are interested in learning at a deeper level, WooCommerce, that guy
Google how to do anything with WooCommerce, that site will show up.
I will reveal that most all of everything I ever figured out to do in the Lunch Flows plugin was through visiting that site and Stack Overflow. And there's another guy in Stack Overflow like Rodolfo, but Rodolfo's site and him are so awesome because he puts it out there, gives you what you need, and then people go, well, what about more? He goes, hey, well, that's a custom service. So I love him for what he contributes, but I love him because he does it in a smart business way because he gets you hooked. And I'm sure a lot of people do.
Yeah, and if you join, there's something called the Bloomer Armada, which is a Slack channel, which is really great. Yeah, so Sharon's a endorser of that. So yeah, his site's amazing.
Oh, well, make sure that's in the Slack channel, Spencer. So, Spencer, what's your recommendation this week for the tribe?
This is something that comes up, and I see Sharon's got a good recommendation too. That was one I would recommend. This is one that comes up almost every day that I finally decided. It's the temporary login without a password plugin. So here's what happens. Hey, Spence, I'm trying to put this theme with that theme with launch flows, and my dog ate my connector, and how does this work? And I'm like, you didn't tell me anything about your website. Could you please use this plugin and send me an admin login temporarily? And so everybody says yes to it because it doesn't require them to create an account or all that. They just do it. And then I immediately see within like 2 minutes what the problem is. And for anybody that's running a service business or a plugin with service, this will save your bacon because people can just give you access and then take it away real quick.
Oh, I have to be on the top of our stack then. My bloody crazy clients. God, Sharon, have you? God, I've had some dealings with them this morning. Put me in a good mood, didn't it, Sharon? So Sharon, what's your recommendation for the tribe?
Well, I started sticking with WooCommerce today. I am recommending the WooCommerce Checkout Manager. In fact, I just had to use this with one of my clients. It's very helpful when you're trying to do conditional checkouts. If you need to make some conditional reasoning and offer different types of checkout fields or whatever, it's a very good plugin for you to use.
Right, that sounds fantastic. John, my beloved John, have you got something for the tribe?
Yeah, this is an article from Master WP by Naisha Green, and this is Will Web Designers Win a License to Discriminate? This is concerning a similar thing to the wedding cake thing. This is a person that wants to refuse to provide wedding web design services. So something very relevant for our times. Yeah. And it's not that this person actually has a client that wants this. They're just suing for this. So
it's the American way, isn't it? Are you going to send the link to David?
I should. I should.
There you go.
You can block me twice.
Yeah, there you go.
I welcome it.
Let's go for a freebie, won't you? Sally, oh God, Sally, have you got a recommendation for the job?
Well, I just want to recommend delegated access in general, like in line with that plugin. I had a client who, he wanted to, basically, he needed me to set up his Gmail to work with his, his other email account, and it just made me appreciate the fact that there are now many companies, hosting companies and other companies, that provide some means of delegating access so that you can get into your, to manage things like your client's web hosting or domain names or whatever, and not have to have their login and not have to have like them sitting there to send you the the two-factor authentication code. So definitely, if you are operating any business like that, consider a method for delegating access.
Yeah, I think it's so true, Sally, and it's these crazy domain people that are they become the worst pits than the hosting companies. We automatically we insist that they set up a free Cloudflare account, because dealing with these crazy frigging domain purchasing companies is a frigging nightmare. They're crazy login systems and whatever else they get up to. They're just demented. So that's my rant. I must be taking the same drugs as Spencer.
400 milligrams of Motrin.
Oh, thank you.
I wish it was more exciting than that.
Why bother?
I know, right? Because my ears ring if I take too much at a time. So I got enough trouble.
Well, Motrin is not good for your digestion, particularly.
Well, there we go. That's for
since I kicked the H, I gotta just stick to Motrin.
It all comes out, listeners and viewers. I do hope. Have you not been entertained, listeners and viewers? Have you not been entertained? We will be back next week with another train wreck. I will see you soon, my beloved audience. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.